If freedom.gov lets Europeans access content blocked under the EU rules, do you see that as a free speech tool or as foreign interference?
Something that allows free speech is most certainly the tool for the freedom of speech. And DSA is, of course, the tool of censorship. So we must ask ourselves what's wrong with the European Union in this moment, because the freedom of speech in the European Union under DSA and because of this politics is becoming so under attack that we must warn first that George Orwell wrote his famous novel 1984 as a warning and not as an instructions for use in the European Union for the third century. And the freedom of speech is now in the such situation that in some cases the freedom of speech on the European level and also in some countries, I'm afraid also in Belgium we are now in, is reminding more and more on this famous sentence from Idi Amin in Uganda. He said once, "Well, of course there is freedom of speech, but we cannot guarantee the freedom after you speak."
Back to Mr. Grims, another question. In your opinion, should courts have to approve the biggest speech impacting enforcement steps, or should the regulators decide? Where do you draw the line?
First of all, freedom of speech is a basic human right, so it must not be limited in any way. Only thing that allows us some sort of limitation is the law against crime. For example, if something is used against the youngest people or something like that, for pedophilia or things like this, then the freedom of speech, of course, ends. But everything else must be free. Even if we disagree, we must defend the freedom that somebody disagree with us. We must defend the freedom even with somebody that insults us. If somebody is making fun of us, this is still freedom of speech. And freedom of speech is like virginity, whether there is or there is none. But there is not halfway in or something like that. No? So the freedom of speech must be limited only in such cases when there is a law against some crime and when the court decides that something is against the law. But anything else, direct interference from, for example, European Commission or something like this is completely against all the basic acts which defends human rights. And, for example, DSA, as a tool of censorship, from my opinion, should be abolished immediately, should even never be accepted, and should be abolished and annulled also with everything that was based on him, also with that 120 million fine for X or Mr. Elon Musk. Without that, the freedom of speech is limited, and this all means just nothing but censorship. We can use any single way, we can use any name, for example, Democracy Shield or something like this, but this is still censorship and nothing else. It's just the Orwellian way of left-winger speech. And we must say to normal people what this really is. The Democracy Shield is the shield for those who are in power. The prohibiting of, hate speech, for example, it's just the prohibition of the truth, because truth is something that bothers the left-wingers. And nothing like this should exist in European Union. Unfortunately, the European Commission still sticks to it. And what's even worse, they misuse the taxpayers' money to impose that censorship. And this should be stopped.